Congressman from Ohio, Greg Landsman. Congressman, thank you also for joining us today. A lot to get to. Let's start with the high-stakes elections in Florida and Wisconsin on Tuesday. We're keeping an eye on that. So talk to us about how Democrats are rallying to chip away Republican control, because this has been, there's been a lot of messaging on this. How do you see it?
I mean, I think that most Americans are appreciating that what they've seen since January 20th has been pure chaos from Trump and congressional Republicans. It is, there's a level of corruption I don't think I've ever seen, and there's a cruelty to all of it. I mean, the indiscriminate firings of tens of thousands of public employees, the chaos around the tariffs, the fact that you have somebody who's actively creating unemployment and tanking the economy, and so. It's unbelievable, but these are competitive races where Trump won by, anywhere between 15 and 20 points. And it's becoming so problematic that Trump had to send Elise Stefanik back to the House. No longer will she be a contender to serve as the UN ambassador for the United States, because they're afraid they're going to lose that seat, which, again, Trump won by 15 points. So I think the American people know that this is truly problematic, and they're going to hold congressional Republicans accountable until they stand up to Trump. So far, they're just not willing to do it.
I wonder what you think of the congressional hearing on judicial overreach in federal courts. That's happening this week. It seems that there are many more injunctions placed on the Trump administration than others. As we take a look at our screen here, you can see the list. What do you make of these numbers?
That this has been pretty lawless, Trump and congressional Republicans handed the keys to the federal government to a tech billionaire, their biggest donor, a guy who gives them hundreds of millions of dollars. And he's burning the federal government to the ground, and they're doing most of this outside of the law. And so, you're seeing court action after court action after court action. This would be like if a foreign adversary took over the United States. They would crash the economy. They would burn the federal government to the ground. They would upend our standing globally. And that's what you're seeing. And so the courts, which have a responsibility to hold folks accountable, are doing just that.
Obviously, voters put Trump in office, right, by this margin. And Democrats have been working to kind of circle the wagons and get things back together. So tell us about the efforts on that front a little bit more, if you can specifically, because I imagine you guys are having a lot of conversations on that front.
Yeah, I think people expect the Democratic Party to be strong, determined, honest, to be the opposite of what they're seeing. So if this is chaos on the Republican side, we've got to remind folks that we are stable, adult, reliable leaders, that we're the opposite of this kind of corruption. We're the ones that are going to clean up government. And we are the ones that are going to fix the tax code and the economy so that, wealth and power are returned back to, the working people, the middle class, small businesses and farmers. That's us. We will fix all of the things they're breaking.
All right. Well, at this point, though, do you think that Democrats have the right leadership in place to tackle the Trump administration?
Yeah, I'm a big fan of Hakeem Jeffries. He's a great leader. Schumer obviously let many of us down and not taking on this fight a couple of weeks ago around the budget. But it was a complicated decision. We all have to be honest about the decision, because had we said, look, we're not going to play this game with you because the status quo is so unacceptable, which I believe it is. Trump would have potentially just kept the government shut down. I mean, that's how little they seem to care.
While I have you, I've got to ask you about the Signal group chat leak. Trump is saying no one is getting fired at this point. Yeah. Who do you think should be held accountable here? You think this whole thing's just going to go away?
No, it's not going to go away. Trump has to be held accountable. I mean, the buck stops with the president of the United States, and congressional Republicans who have a constitutional responsibility to hold folks accountable, they're going to be the ones on the line here. And so hopefully they step up and ask for, a full investigation. It was probably the worst national security screw up in my lifetime. And, as you said earlier, it could have led to a down plane, a pilot or pilots being killed. And the Israelis have every right to be as upset as they are. This is a huge, huge deal. And just like with most scandals, it's the cover up that killed you. And that's what they're doing.
Yeah, a lot of people still have many, many questions about how this went down and how it's being handled. Also, I wanted to ask you about this letter that you signed pushing back on plans to cut 50 to 70% of the workforce in the Environmental Protection Agency. Talk to us about the repercussions of these planned cuts, because we're talking about cuts all over the place, and now we have this letter. So explain to us what this is all about.
Yeah, there was no mandate to undermine clean water or clean air. I have one of the largest EPA facilities in my district, and hundreds of people work there, and they work there their entire lives. They work their tails off. And so this has to end. And again, congressional Republicans are the ones who have a constitutional responsibility to say to the administration, this is outside of the law. Not only is it going to hurt us, and the clean water and clean air that we have taken for granted for decades, this is against the law. You're not allowed to do this. And so the courts are going to continue to do that until congressional Republicans step up.
Wanted to ask you also, we're tracking the movements of Elon Musk today, heading to Wisconsin with the Supreme Court runoff here. And I wanted to know what you think about his influence in the state of Wisconsin, talking about giving away a lot of money, possibly. But how do you see this race that's going on right now?
It's a really important race, but, it is blatant corruption. I mean, he's trying to buy this election. And, this is a guy who spent hundreds of millions of dollars getting Trump and congressional Republicans elected, and they turned around and let him do whatever he wanted, picking his own regulators, crushing his competition. And, ultimately he's going to get tens of billions of dollars more in federal contracts. So, the American people hate this chaos. They hate the corruption, and they're seeing it playing out all over the place and in Wisconsin. And so, hopefully that means that, the voters reject it, because if he's able to buy another election, that is it is a huge problem for our democracy.
Yeah, I agree with you that a lot of people don't like the chaos, but we've also, I want to mention, interviewed a lot of people who like to see the shakeup, is what they're calling it. We'll see how this one plays out. Ohio Democratic Congressman Landsman, I want to thank you very much for joining us on your Sunday. Come back anytime. Thank you. And staff writer for The Hill.